Now is the time to pull out your major template and follow along with this video. You can either open this in some editing software and follow along virtually, or feel free to print it out and use a pen and paper. Your major template is a 4-year map of all of your graduation requirements. The department makes this annually and updates it, so make sure you always use the Class of 2024 template. In this video, we're going to cover the general plan they've laid out for your first semester, and then talk about some other courses throughout the template that might be options to move up depending on your individual case. After learning these skills, we're going to apply them and showing how to build a test schedule for fall of 2020 that you could then use to put into YACS. Okay, so looking at this first semester, the general layout the department has suggested is Computer Science 1, Intro to ECSE, Calculus 1, and a Haas class. Now, speaking as an advisor, I would say that if you do not already have credit for Computer Science 1, that's going to be a primary non-negotiable class. That's definitely going to be important to give you some more options in future semesters. Then moving on to Introduction to ECSE, this is a course that I want you to take some time to think about. It's offered by the department and is a really wonderful way to be introduced to the major. However, all engineering majors require some sort of introductory class. For every single engineering major except for electrical engineering and computer systems engineering, students take ENGR 1100, which is Intro to Engineering Analysis. In deciding whether or not you want to take Intro to ECSE this fall, think about how dedicated you are to the electrical engineering major. If you take ECSE 1010 and then decide later you want to major in something outside of electrical or computer systems engineering, you will have to go back and take Intro to Engineering Analysis. So I would say if you're very sure that you want to do electrical or computer systems engineering, or you're not entirely sure but would like to take this class to get a better sense, this could definitely be a good option for your fall semester. If you're undecided on your major and don't necessarily want to take this on the off chance you might not be able to use it for something other than a free elective later, we can definitely look at other options. I would say 9 times out of 10, the best option is to take Physics 1 and move that to your fall semester. It doesn't have any prerequisites, so this is 100% an option. That gives you some more time to think about this. Also, you could always take Introduction to Engineering Analysis. The electrical engineering department does accept it. As you can see here, there's footnote number 6, and it shows they will accept IEA, Intro to Engineering Analysis. So when in doubt, that's always a safe bet. Moving on, if you already have credit for Calculus 1, then the progression from there is pretty obvious. No math credit means take Calc 1. Calc 1 credit means you should move on to Calculus 2. And if you have credits for both, I recommend moving on to Intro to Differential Equations. Now, if you have credit for up through Calc 2, you can take either differential equations or multivariable calculus, but I recommend doing differential equations first if possible, because it's a prerequisite for circuits. This is something we'll talk more about once you have your advising appointments with me this fall, but basically circuits is the big class that you want to get to as soon as you can in your first 2 years. So when possible, prioritize differential equations over multivariable calc. Last but not least is a Haas class, and I highly, highly recommend that all first-year students take a Haas in their first semester. It really helps provide a balance as you transition out of high school. Now let's look down the template and see some other options you might have, whether it's because you already have Computer Science 1 credit or you want to make a switch with Intro to ECSE. So, looking at the spring semester, you could potentially move up your 1 credit class, which is either Engineering 1200 or Engineering 1400. In all cases for electrical engineers, I recommend taking Engineering 1400. That could be done either this fall or in the spring, so that's just a personal preference. As I mentioned earlier, Physics 1 has no prerequisites, so you can absolutely move that up to fall, and if you have AP credit for Physics 1, then you could potentially move on to Physics 2. Embedded Control requires Computer Science 1 as a prerequisite, so don't look at this class unless you have some sort of credit for Computer Science 1. Then you'll see here that you have to take a science elective. In these cases where it looks a little bit vague as to what could potentially fill that requirement, just scroll down on your template. Here we can see that your options for the science elective are Chemistry 1, Intro to Biology, or Cell and Molecular Biology. Pretty much no one takes Cell and Molecular Biology because that is a very challenging class, so stick with Chemistry or Biology if you don't already have some credits there. Then again, some classes in this semester might come into play depending on what you have. So if you have Computer Science 1 credit, you could consider taking Computer Components. Again, this is probably not something I would do unless you have a lot of credits coming in. Differential equations could be on the table depending on your math situation, as could Physics 2. And then other than that, the only other option that might come into play this fall is both your math and science elective or your free elective. So again, with the math science elective options down below, this is more of a paragraph. It's very broad as to what courses can count. However, nothing is quite as broad as free electives. All engineers, regardless of major, have to take 12 credits of free electives, which are literally any class that you're not already having to take for one of your other requirements. So if you're kind of on the fence between electrical engineering and some other engineering major, these can be a really great way to explore a new field, do something for fun, or potentially incorporate a minor later on. So given all of these different options, how do we make our schedule for fall? So basically, the way I always advise is we make a primary plan, which are the things that we are hoping to get if everything goes our way, but we're also going to identify backup options. So if something is full or the time slots for some classes just aren't playing well together, we know what we can move to. So first things first, if you have any credits of some sort coming in, make sure to cross those off on the template. For the sake of this example, I'm going to pretend I have credit for Calculus 1 and Chemistry 1. So on here, I'm just going to use a strike through. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my primary plan in green, and I'm going to highlight my backup options in blue. So as I mentioned before, in this case, I don't have credit for Computer Science 1. So we're definitely going to use that as an option. I also have decided I'm pretty sure about electrical engineering, so I want to take ECSE 1010. And as I mentioned, Haas is pretty much non-negotiable in your first semester. Then, since I've finished Calculus 1, I'm just going to run over here and add Calculus 2. So I'm up to 16 credits, and that's going to be my primary plan. However, again, there are these backup options. So as I mentioned, we definitely could consider Physics 1. And then, as I mentioned, I don't have CS1 credit yet, so we're going to ignore embedded control. We're going to ignore computer components. We're going to ignore differential equations, physics. Then we've already accounted for a Haas in our schedule, so I'm going to skim past that. So then we always could consider a free elective. And my math or science elective. So with all of these options identified, I now am ready to go into YACS, build some schedules, and see what works. If you have any questions about your individual situation or how to negotiate or navigate your template, please just let me know. I'm always happy to help, and I've got your back.